All companies, no matter big or small, are transforming their business digitally. They're looking for talents with digital skills to drive digital transformation. Now everyone is expected to work with emerging technologies, where data is the key ingredient. No matter what background you're from, no matter which position you're in, you will be expected to work with data. The truth is, you don't need to be a data professional to work with data. What you need is the ability to analyze, communicate, and work with data. This is data literacy. But how do you become data literate? Step 1. Identify your digital skills. Step 2. Get clarity on what skills to learn based on industry demands. Step 3. Get a personalized learning path unique to you. Step 4. Get matched with jobs and projects relevant to you. Step 5. Connect with peers, mentors, industry experts, and employers. Step 6. Participate in competitions to build reputation. Join thousands of others in a growing community. Future-proof your skills. Become data literate with Rubik. Sign up to get started. All companies, no matter big or small, are transforming their business digitally. They're looking for talents with digital skills to drive digital transformation. Now everyone is expected to work with emerging technologies, where data is the key ingredient. No matter what background you're from, no matter which position you're in, you will be expected to work with data. The truth is, you don't need to be a data professional to work with data. What you need is the ability to analyze, communicate, and work with data. This is data literacy. But how do you become data literate? Step 1. Identify your digital skills. Step 2. Get clarity on what skills to learn based on industry demands. Step 3. Get a personalized learning path unique to you. Step 4. Get matched with jobs and projects relevant to you. Step 5. Connect with peers, mentors, industry experts, and employers. Step 6. Participate in competitions to build reputation. Join thousands of others in a growing community. Future-proof your skills. Become data literate with Rubik. Sign up to get started. Step 6. Participate in competitions to build reputation.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 4th installment of our Data Literacy Month webinar series, the CEO Talk, Leadership for the New Era, broadcasting live via Zoom, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for joining us from different parts of the world. So wherever you are, it is only right for me to greet you with good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Hassan from the Center of Applied Data Science, better known as CATS. I would like to introduce to you an initiative that we're rolling out. CATS, we are an AI technology solution company with a big, bold vision to future-proof the world by improving data literacy in the economy for the workforce. Data literacy is a must-have critical skill in the 21st century for everybody and all organizations if we want to remain competitive, relevant, and sustainable. As such, in conjunction with International Youth Day on the 12th of August, this campaign aims to do just that, to accelerate a data-driven culture in ASEAN and promote data literacy and the increasing demand for data literate talent and workforce. To continue with this mission, we have been engaging with citizens in the ASEAN region to promote data literacy. There will be webinars, learning opportunities, public hackathons, and competitions, specifically designed for various users and audiences. You may ask, why ASEAN? ASEAN is an integrated economy with a large talent pool and a rapidly growing middle class. It is the world's third most populous region in the world, after India and China, with a population of over 640 million, and 50% of that is between the age of 20 and 50. It gives us great coverage to engage and create meaningful and lasting impact at scale and at speed. There will be exciting activities taking place throughout this campaign. For those who are interested to find out more, please stay on for another 5 minutes after the end of the panelist discussions. So stay tuned. In today's webinar, we have a distinguished panel of entrepreneurs to share experience and vision with us. Entrepreneurship is not a bed of roses. We'll find out how these entrepreneurs take on the challenges brought on by the pandemic and yet manage to seize opportunities in the midst of so much uncertainty. I'm very happy to introduce to you our moderator for today, Mr. Philip Rao. Philip is a partner with the consulting practice of Ernst & Young. In his 30 years with the firm, he has extensive experience working with companies on risk management, corporate governance, corporate finance engagements with different companies across different countries. different countries. He is also a program director for the prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year Award at Ernst & Young. And icing on the cake, he knows our panelists very well. So we are certainly in for a treat to listen into their conversation. So I shall not be standing between you and this wonderful webinar any longer. It is my pleasure to invite Philip to open this discussion. Thank you very much, Philip. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Hassan. Thank you very much for the kind welcome and the introduction. Hope everyone is doing well wherever you are in the world. I know we have participants from even Europe and so on, who are tuning in very early to listen to us. Hopefully, you'll be as excited as I am with the panelists and the topic that we have. As Hassan mentioned, you know, the three panelists that on your screen are people that I know quite well, and they've become my friends, and I hope that you will enjoy the conversation that I will be having with them. So without further ado, I'd just like to quickly introduce the three panelists. Of course, Sharala is you know, no stranger to cats. She's one of the founders and the CEO of Cats, and has been very much in touch with me on this topic. When she approached me to say, you know, can we do this? I say, yeah, for sure, because entrepreneurship and how CEOs run organizations and the challenges they face, especially in this current time, is something that I'm quite passionate about. So Sharala has been also a Woman Entrepreneur of the Year winner for us in Entrepreneur of the Year EY in 2017. And I'm sure she will share a little bit about her life story in a bit. The other person that is with us today is Bryan Loob. Bryan Loob, you know, is synonymous with Tealive. As many of you know, he's got over 700 or 800 outlets around the world now. And you know, I was telling Bryan the other day that, you know, my kids love and my family love Tealive. So every time they order Tealive, I get the benefit of getting a free Tealive because they pay for it. And not realizing that I eventually pay for it. But so Bryan has done a wonderful job with Tealive, and you know, is I think one of the best known brands in Malaysia today, especially among the younger group of people. So Bryan is here to share his story.
Thanks,
and finally, Cheng, Carsome, you know, has revolutionized the e-commerce platform for cars in the region. You know, I'm hoping that one day I can probably afford to buy a car through Axryd platform. I know that he's taking it, you know, to greater heights. And he was our Entrepreneur of the Year Emerging Category winner in 2020. By the way, Bryan was our winner for the Emerging Category as well in 2013. So I have three winners from our Entrepreneur of the Year program here to chat to. Hopefully you will learn as much as you can from this session, and we all go away learning a few things. So maybe to start off, Sharala, maybe a few minutes on your story. Just quickly tell us, what is Cats and what have you done with it?
Okay. To start off with, I always say, you know, I've always been an accidental entrepreneur, right? I come from, you know, Philip, we are Indian family. So, you know, we have to have a degree, we have to work, we make other companies great. But to be an entrepreneur, my parents did not take it well. And I must say that I think my mom, every time when I'm going on business trips, she always will ask me, would you be able to get a government job? Because I could have pension for life. So literally, this is how, you know, my family was hoping that I will end up. But I owe it. I must say, when the EY, you know, when I won it, I think that's the time it hit my mom. So maybe I can stop worrying about her. You know, I'm a mother of two, and I still have my mom worrying until the EY, you know, event happened, and I won it, and then she stopped nagging me getting a government job. So I owe that, I guess. But you know, Cats was always set up with a purpose. You know, I lived abroad, I came back, and this is why I thank you, Eric, Bryan. You know, you guys, you know, passionately came forward when this. Asked to support us in the Project 2100. The purpose of Cats is always to why Malaysia has such a big you know, brain drain, why graduate unemployability is a is a real thing. And then we realized ASEAN as an economy as a whole, we could do a lot better. Like, you say, the pandemic is a silver lining, right? But the truth of the matter is overnight, 500 million jobs, full-time jobs were lost. And ASEAN has a great, 230 million youths. And if only, people like Bryan and Carsome, Eric, how do businesses like these want that future skills, the 21st century skills, and we call it data literacy, we could all make a difference. And that's why I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much.
So maybe a few comments, the people listening in, especially the young people, I shared the poster with my kids and my nieces, nephews, and all of them are in their teens. I said, you guys better listen in, because not many of us, when growing up, as Sharala has put it, were exposed to, listening to entrepreneurs, having a chat about how they build their business. We have always learned about doing my SPM or doing my O-levels, and doing my A-levels, and going to university and so on. So it's very interesting perspective that not many of us have. And I think the dimension of variability in the learning that we have is actually very, very crucial in these days. So hopefully, young people, please ask questions. I think the Q&A button is open. Please ask as many questions. No question is bad for us. We will try and bring all of them to the experts that we have on the panel. And, I just want to, you all keep a note, right? That what Sharala does is actually amazing, because it's data sciences. Everything we do today is about data, right? Every time you pick up your handphone, you're actually using data, and you're playing with data, and you're actually transacting with data, you're interacting with data, and so on. So keep that in mind, and when we talk to the rest of the panelists, you'll hear how data is so important. Now, Bryan, your story, can you please tell us, how a boy from Perlis up north has done great things with, with your business, and how did you start off with entrepreneurship, and a little bit of yourself?
Okay, thanks, Philip. Just a bit of intro about myself. I'm the founder and CEO of our Loob Holding, probably one of the largest and fastest growing young F&B company in Malaysia, and our flagship brand is Tealive. So like Philip says, I'm quite fortunate. I get to born in the smallest states in the whole Malaysia, in Perlis. So Perlis is my home ground. Is where I nurture my entrepreneurship spirit. So I started my first business at the age of 7. So I draw comic books and I sell it to my classmates for 50 cents per reading. So that was my first business, and it was not strange. It's because I was grown up in a 3-story shop lots. That's how I grown up. So downstairs is where my parents selling aircon. They're dealing with air conditioning business. So day in, day out, I've been looking at them, how they manage business, doing customer service. So I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that, business has always in my blood. And since then, I jump on primary school and start something at a very early age of 7, selling comic books. And during during standard 3, I started trading bicycle in school. So start to trading bicycle and start making a bit of pocket money. So went on, and I actually went to study biotechnology in Melbourne. So I a biotech grad from Melbourne. So a decade ago, I actually went to my father while I'm actually working for a biotech firm. I told him that, I really wanted to start something on my own. That was at the age of 24. My parents, as always, were very supportive, even though we don't have any background in F&B at all. And I've spoken to my family that, I spot a huge gap in tea drinking market in Malaysia. So because I believe that there's always a strong tea drinking cultures in this part of the world, but however, a decade ago, right, there isn't a tea representative in this category. But on the other side of the world, coffee, we got Starbucks, Coffee Bean, Old Town, Papa Rich, San Francisco, everyone that you can name in that category. But in tea, right, technically there's no tea representative or a name in the category to represent. So in other words, I believe that, we could modernize the conventional tea drinking culture by the roadside or at the mama store and convert them into something big and organized. So the last 1 decade is all about a movement of shaping an unorganized culture into something sustainable and lifestyle driven. So I think fast forward today, we are humble enough to bring the vision to life. We expanded close to 700 outlets, both in local and regionally across 8 markets, serving about 5.5 million customers who walk across our store on a monthly basis. Back to you, Philip.
Amazing story, right? So I've known Bryan for many, many years, right? As you can imagine, and I've always been impressed with the how down to earth he is and how simple his thinking is, and how he has brought great things to all of us. We all enjoy a cup of Tealive on and off. And I'm sure the audience has some or other touched your brand in some way. So I know that it's not been easy, and you can see the contrast, right, in cultures, right? Sharala was saying that to become an entrepreneur was a big issue because I'm also Indian. Indian families, you must be an accountant, like I'm an accountant or doctor, lawyer, and if you don't get one of those three, then you are a failure. But you see the difference in the cultures, right? And I don't mean to negate any culture, but I mean the cultures that we have to come together and bring changes to the way we do things. And you can see in Bryan's case, his parents were supportive because they came from a family of entrepreneurs themselves. And I think it's an amazing story for someone to be able to see, find a niche. I think it's important as entrepreneurs to find a niche and to drive that passion forward as you go along. So thanks, Bryan. So now Eric Cheng is another champion. He's started the business 2015. In 6 years, it's grown into a $1 billion business. So Eric, tell us, how did you do it, and what was the background towards this whole growth in your business, and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Philip. I think most people know me as like the one who started Carsome, running the show still, and I think let me just touch a bit on my origin, right? So I'm pretty much born and raised Malaysian, PJ most of the time, and my parents came from Perak, a small town called Bido. So every once in a while, when I was still a kid, I do go back to have holidays and so on, right? Which you probably know that town for the Wanton Mee and something like that. I think it's not so much of a entrepreneur story. I think at the very beginning, I think I like to play games a lot before I started everything, right? So I always play games back then. I was once playing very competitively on Counter-Strike and almost wanted to take that as my profession. But I think eventually I stopped dreaming and didn't actually go there. But I guess that kind of shaped my entire career, especially with my first job being on a digital marketing firm. You see everything that I do is firstly to educate the market, to disrupt. Most of people are buying ads offline, like TV, radios, but less online. So which a lot of my job is to educate clients. But on top of that, also I find it really mesmerizing with campaigns. Everything that's in the digital side can be measurable by data from end to end. So I think that's one of those things that intrigue and give me that passion. And I think I found my passion truly on digital or everything tech, given that it's not just disruptive, but at the same time, something that you can really gain control, right? By understanding the data a lot more. And I guess I started 3 other companies before Carsome. So one is sort of an offline Groupon, distributing magazines that to the household, where people could browse and look at all the latest offerings from the neighborhood. And my second venture was an ad tech company that utilized real-time bidding technology, so you can buy ads instantly instead of aggregating them on a traditional way. And then I went on to the third one, was a gaming studio. I started a gaming studio, developed 2 games, published it on app stores. And I think in every part of that journey, I kind of saw a industry that's huge, but at the same time, it has that needs for better service or better product. That whole disruptive mindset, finding a breakthrough has always been, in me, I guess. So I think when it comes to Carsome, it was the same. It was a huge market, car market, people having problem with buying and selling cars. So the real fundamental or the real pain points are actually, it lies in the transaction side. People don't enjoy a good experience. They always describe it as the most horrible experience, right? When you buy or sell a car. So I think that's where we wanted to tackle that by using technology, try to digitize the entire process of doing that. And we see that issue is not just limited to Malaysia, right? We see that issue exists in every other countries that we saw in Southeast Asia. And hence, like in the very beginning, even first year, we decided that this is going to be a company that we want to go regional. Started from Malaysia, we expanded to other countries. And of course, the story from there on, we managed to grow fairly pretty good in a sense where on a year-to-year basis, about 2 to 3 times of our previous growth, our previous revenue. And I think that whole fundamental mindset has been always in me in trying to find a breakthrough in the business that we are doing. Even in the recent times, if you look at Carsome business, helping consumers sell has been what we do for the last couple of years. But last year we launched the B2C retail because we saw people also having issues buying a car, and we're finally stepping up our game and trying to launch that service, which now would eventually cover some of the other issues that we saw, like getting access to financing, insurance, after-sales support. So we try to package all of this into one single application, one platform. So yeah, I think that's a snapshot of what we are, what I did, and what was that before.
Oh, thanks, Eric. Just a comment. I see someone, Tengku Nila, saying, what a coincidence, all the speakers are from the north. Just to let you all know that the moderator is also from the north. I'm from Kedah, I'm from Alostar. So you can tell you can see some trends about northern people, right? So I just rest my case with that. So Eric, thanks. Very interesting to see that, I must tell my children, being a gamer has got a future because they're all on games the whole day long. So hopefully gamers realize there's a future outside gaming, and that you have seen opportunities, and and I really like the fact that you have talked about digital revolutions and data and so on, which brings me to my first sort of question for you guys, right? And I think I just like to put a perspective like this. I feel that many people talk about data and so on. I feel from my perspective that data is actually the new gold. The new gold that we sometimes do not really value high enough in the way we actually run our businesses, the way we think, the way we run our lives and so on. But the truth is that we touch data all the time, as I mentioned earlier. So I just want to hear, maybe from Sharala, how do you see data being that gold that is going to be really growing in its value as we go along in the next few years?
I think, Philip, we have answered ourselves. If it's not for data and digital, we won't have a unicorn in Malaysia, right? That's the reality of scalability. Touching as many lives as possible, taking a traditional business and going ASEAN, just sitting from KL. It's not possible if it wasn't for data and digital. And Bryan coming from F&B, managing 700 outlets with 5.5 million walk-in every month, right? I mean, come on, that's the only way we can do that is with data. The biggest challenge with companies, I think a lot of them are a convert, but they don't have the, technology is the easiest part, right? You showed the phone and there's so many tools out there that if you have the money, you can buy it. But the part that, not having the over and over again, we hear it, World Economic Forum has written, ASEAN will have the effect of now we are the 7th GDP in the world. And the only thing that's stopping us from becoming the 4th GDP in the world is not having the talent to support the companies to go data and digital. It is the goal, it is there, but people need to use it and get the insights. Having data, having the technology and not using it is not going to help. And you always need people to be able to take that, address that, convert that. We've seen we are more successful with youths than upskilling the older generation because, like you said, your children, they play games all the time. These are digital babies, right? Like kids just know how to use digital and it becomes so much easier to play with the goal. Especially coming from this side of the world, if you work for oil and gas, it's really sexy. If you work for the bank, it's really sexy. And all these industries are looking for ways to optimize their businesses using data. So spot on what you asked.
Yeah, so I think people are listening in, especially the younger folk, right? Younger folk, I hope I can call myself younger as well. We all need to realize the power of data and how it can change the way we do things. I think, maybe even 5-6 years ago, you wouldn't have imagined buying things online or getting things ordered online and delivered home to you and things like that, and ordering food come to you online. And so it's amazing what technology and data have done. And I think the misconception many people have is that this whole digital and data thing is a very ICT, IT technology thingy that most people don't understand. And I think, Sharala, the work that you do, I believe, is to actually bring the reality of simplicity into how data can be used in everyday lives, right? So I quite like the way you have grown the business and what you do with people. Maybe Bryan, can you give us a sort of an example as to how data being the new goal has helped you in your business? Maybe some reality check for people to understand. How you as the founder and CEO of Tealive, how do you use data and how data has helped you?
So as far as everyone know, we are running a typical brick and mortar business, and using data can be something very out of the blue or something very high level. But I think we are in the league that we witness that the importance of data. Just imagine, without using data to guide a decision making, most of the small businesses and startup out there, right, were just doing things that they feel is suitable or most make sense. So they chase competitor, they chase trend, they follow fads, but chasing and following means that the business isn't leading. So it also means that being at the second place is at the best. So at the peak, in our category, we are competing against 150 over bubble tea brands in Malaysia landscape only. Not talking about in the region, there are thousands of bubble tea brands out there. And how do we compete, right? So the competitor will be chasing us here, and they will try to emulate whatever you do. But because they are not using the right map, so they won't see the next turn in the road coming ahead of them. So for example, our expansion into multiple format really helped us to cruise through the pandemic very smoothly versus our peer in the market with a very limited business model or business format. So company in the lead, right, has all the mechanism in place to basically capture the important customer data. So part of our company culture is to collecting and interpreting the informations on our business and also our customer in a regular basis. And on the other side of the note, I feel that data is also useless is the company keep looking at the wrong data and keep asking the wrong question. So I think in our 10 years journey looking at data, I think we are very silly about how do we use data at the beginning of 5 years, but we gain our strength when we're dealing with a lot of competitors out there. And over the years, we built a data-driven beverages company today to really able to compete on the same wavelength with all the competitors that could have come from the region, could be a Starbucks, and how do we use our data to basically defeat our competitor? Yeah, back to you, Phillips.
Thanks, Bryan. It's very interesting because you mentioned in some way that the way you have done different channeling of your data has helped you to protect your market, right, and get ahead of the competitors, right? And it's quite interesting because and before I go to Eric, I was just telling I did an interview earlier on Entrepreneur of the Year, and I told the interviewer that in those days we had for those of you who are Malaysians, we had nasi kandar sellers, right? Nasi kandar guys, I think maybe Bryan and all of you are probably too young. The nasi kandar seller used to bring nasi kandar on his shoulder, and he comes to your home and gives you your food, right? That was maybe 30, 40 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago. And the guy used to bring rice and curries and whatever not, and you could order everything. The hardware guy used to come in his bicycle to around your home and sell you the brooms and the mops and everything else. And if you fast forward to 2020, 21 and this era, we are already doing that. We have Grab, we have Grab Food, we have Food Panda, we have all the food delivery guys who are actually in a way doing what the nasi kandar guy used to do. Just that you have data now, technology now to be able to order that online, and so that they come to you with what you need, as opposed to coming to you with everything that they have and you choose what you need. So I think that's a very, very interesting way to look at how data changes and technology changes the way customers' needs are met, right? Better, right? And I think, if you talk about the 50 years span that I talked about, I don't think anything has changed with the customer's need. The customer still needs good food. The customer still needs good stuff. The customer needs good products. But it's the way you reach out to them and use the information that you have. The power of the data, as I said, data is a new goal, actually helps you to actually be much more targeted at your customer, which is my question to Eric. As a car and platform, right? How do you handle the different customer needs? I know one of them is actually dealing with the simplicity of the transaction, but I'm sure you are dealing with different customer needs. And so maybe share with us how data changes the way you actually operate.
Yeah. So I think data in our business play a very, very central role for day-to-day operation. I think it's extremely crucial, right? It's not just about optimizing the conversion. Like a transaction is typically a very long, very complicated process when it comes to car purchase. So one thing that we do with technology and data is to streamline and remove the frictions, so then we could, help you sell your car, buy a car as quickly as possible. I think the other way is also looking through of like how customer behave on the platform. And then from there on, we understand like, what is the car suitable for you? What is the right price in the market that we can offer? And, if you look at used car, it's not like new car. Every other VIOS on the used car market is different. So you know that they are all very differentiated assets, and your ability to assess and understand each of these assets and eventually connect and put it on a platform between the supply and demand, and how do you bridge the gap? So this is how I think data plays a really central role. I'll give you an example. Like within the business, we have a few pillars, right? Like the first pillar is business intelligence. So you have the whole full dashboard to understand that, how the leads convert all the way to transactions, at which funnel they drop off, and do you consider this drop off as good losses or bad losses? And then you try to find and optimize the decision making process. So business intelligence is one, right? So then you have your insights where we try to understand and find new insights that we can understand within the business to the market. And there's things like, we have transactions from different cities, right? If you're talking about a transactions happening from KL to Johor, is that a much bigger or higher price compared to this car being sold to like Kuantan or Perlis, for example? So I think there's a lot of understanding of the supply and demand within the market to kind of derive to the whole decision making. And then we have, so those first two pillars that I just mentioned is a lot about creating a feedback loop, trying to understand how do you utilize that to optimize the decision. But in turn, when you look at a business, it would amplify the growth that you can get, right? From every 3-4 cars that came through, from 4 to 1 transactions, now maybe 3 or 2.5 to 1 transaction. So, and that plays a huge role in getting the operation efficiencies. And we're now moving towards even deeper, right? Creating predictability, which is the third pillar that we have, like data science and data engineering. So a lot of the things that we do right now is very much like manual insights, trying to understand through analyzing and all, right? So probably because I came from like a background where not just digital marketing, when I was playing games, I was like, Captain, I need to think about what are the plans to do next, some of my teammates. You try to be a lot more analytical. And I think that there's a threshold that you will hit, right? That's only that much you can do, and I need to sleep as well, right? So ultimately, we want to create a predictability as we scale. Like right now, Carsome have about close to 2,000 people across the region. What it means is that manual intervention insights would not be sufficient to cater for the same level of growth. You want to grow exponentially, you need to create predictability. And the only way for you to go into is data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning. And that's only made possible when you have a large data sets to work with. There's no way to go into AI when you have only like, 100,000 data sets to look at and try to create intelligence out of it, right? So, and I think at this current stage right now is we are able to increase the accuracy, trying to understand from, if this is the price that would make sense for this current car that cater for the demand, which could result into this car selling a lot faster in the market. And all of this would help the business grow a lot faster, right? And I think that is something that we are trying to work towards, and the accuracy become more and more accurate as we go. And I think that's how data plays a huge role when it comes to not just reducing the friction so that transactions can happen as fast as possible, but it's also creating that understanding the insights that if today we're going to create 1,000 car selections to a new cities like Jakarta, a new city like Bangkok, what are these 1,000 cars look like, right? Are they going to be all 1,000 VIOS, or it has to be like maybe 30-40% VIOS and all? So we use data to back up the decision making that we have, optimize our strategy, and then we further analyze and improvise, from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. I really like you mentioned insights quite a number of times, and the feedback loop and the way you make decisions based on data. I think spot on. I mean, I'm very exciting because, I mean, in a nutshell, what all three of you said is that without data being at the core of what you do, I think you would not have the same reach that you have right now, right? The same impact that you have on the market, and the market is now almost global, right? Or if not global, and so on. So Sharala, I just coming back to you. I mean, maybe what people need to realize is that the work that you do is actually creating the opportunities for people to use data or to learn how to use data better. And just maybe share with it. I personally feel that in this day and age, there's no such thing as everyone owning their own data, protecting it with a little fence, and not allowing it to go beyond your company. Because if I tell another tea brand that I have so much of data and I know more about your customer, then eventually I'm ahead of everyone else. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that in this day and age, monetizing data and collaborating with data probably is, I think, a way forward. So maybe Sharala, you want to share with us how, with what you do, how that is possible, how is that an interesting prospect? And maybe I get comments from Eric and Bryan as well.
Yeah, I think, well, this is, let's take my business, right? We started off as an education company because we knew we needed talent. So we thought, let's create them that will allow CATS to evolve eventually. So with the pandemic, we have gone into platform. We have collaborated with the Project 2100, Coursera, and LinkedIn. Like, I'm disrupting my own business of delivering online courses along with Coursera and LinkedIn and UpLevel to reach scalability. Like, it is a traditional business, but in the platform that we have created, cats.ai, which you've been hearing the rubric, to allow students, anybody that's interested to become a data literate could learn. And it just doesn't have to be from cats, but over the years, there's enough data for us to know what kind of data literacy you need, what kind of candidates can go into a different path, like what Eric was telling, data scientists, data analysts, data engineers. So we have built that over the years. Now collaborating with Coursera and LinkedIn allows us to actually scale the business even better, disrupt what we have already built in order for us to make that growth. And I think my team went, insane when I said that, let's collaborate. And they were like, are you kidding us? This is our bread and butter. And I think you cannot grow a business if you don't disrupt yourself, because somebody is going to disrupt it anyways. So collaboration becomes really important that, today we have become the aggregator of aggregators because we started off first. And I like what Bryan said, right? When you have data, you become a leader in that game because you have more information and you can do foresight. Back to what Eric is saying, right? You want to predict, you want to know what's next. Turning the corner. I love that when Bryan said that you're not blinded. And that's exactly what happened during the pandemic. The downtime allowed us to actually reinvent ourselves. And collaboration becomes really important. And these two are collaborating, I know that, so they will have nicer stories to talk about it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sharala. Excellent. So, I guess in some ways, what Sharala is doing and the way she's driving the education of digital in the market is actually helpful to Bryan and Eric in some way, because you will be getting people who are enlightened by CATS, maybe, or CATS AI or her team. But Bryan, how has collaboration in this space helped you? It doesn't have to be only digital, right? It's collaboration as a whole in how you drive your business.
So I think our collaboration is more internal than external, because, as I say, we're dealing with brick and mortar business where a lot of our people doesn't build to appreciate data. So I think there was years and years of educations and really get our guys to step up the game to understand the importance of data. So today in Loob, right, or in Tealive, we need to work together as a team to discover some of the toughest questions we have in our business. So time, is a thing that most of the young company doesn't have. So asking the right question at the very beginning are very critical, because we doesn't have much time to deal with a lot of wrong questions. So there's no set of standard question that would mean for every industry, because I feel that every industry are very different. But asking questions like, things like, where did our customer came from? and how their customer buy our product, where are the touch point, right, can be a great starting place already. So in our organizations, even though those can be very simple as it sounds, it requires cross-departmental teamwork to find out this question not just from data perspective, but also the validation from the operation team at the ground level. So by learning how a customer arrives is only the first part of the entire picture. Second part is really about customer engagement, their buying behavior, to find out, our customer buys certain product and why certain customer doesn't buy certain products. So when a company today has a good sense of data, we feel that, married with a great teamwork across multiple different functional groups, the company today can start to anticipate and react to customer needs instead of what the company think the customer want or they need it. So I think one way is guessing, another way is actually understanding or knowing it. I think I see a magic happen in our company when, our real data basically married together with the real life customer observation at the store level come together. So it will really unleash to solve some of the real customer needs we have in day-to-day basis, instead of previously we're just guessing about them. So I think one of the typical example that I can raise during the pandemic period is data tell us that, during pandemic period, our customer became a lot more demanding and constantly looking out for new excitement as they compare to pre-COVID level. So instead of previously our new product LTO able to sustain the novelty period for as long as maybe 8 to 10 weeks, this day every new LTO only able to sustain the hype period for 6 to maximum 8 weeks. So since then, we ramp up our new product launches. Hence today you can observe Tealive start rolling out new product consistently every 6 weeks in order to keep up the trend. So I think data tells us that, what we need to do, how do we react quickly with the change of customer lifestyle, customer needs, right? So instead of yearly 5-time new product launches, today we ramp up to 10-time new product launches on yearly basis. Just imagine if our competitor and our peer in the market has got the data, right? They would react similarly. But the thing is, because they don't see the full picture as we do, so we react quicker than the market, just so that we maintain our position being a market leader. That's what we learned. Thanks, Philip.
Excellent. So I think it's two dimensions, right? One, Sharala is saying about how using her knowledge and her capability and the technology to actually collaborate with organizations across to bring changes in the thinking on data and sciences and so on. And that's how you bring external together and make an impact in the market. Whereas what Bryan says is very, very interesting, and I hope people listening in picked up from that, because it means we have internal silos. Whatever you say, every organization has internal silos, right? One guy may have a personality issue with the HR guy doesn't like the finance guy doesn't like the operations guys, the pains in where, and so on. But I think what you are saying is that you need to actually force the data and information and operational knowledge to be internally helping to break down silos, right? Use it to actually communicate all the way through, so that the experience from when I go to the outlet all the way to when I go back to my supply chain is actually helping me to actually do it much better, or my new product launches and so on, as you say. So very crucial for people listening in is that there are so many different dimensions of how you use information and how you manage organizations and how you collaborate internally. I love that internal collaboration and the way you've done it. Obviously, it's interesting because every few weeks I see new products, so it's excellent. Eric, how has that impacted you? Collaborations and the way you work. I think yours has got a lot more interesting dimensions, right? Because you deal with people all around on different types of scale, right?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, right? That Shah and Bryan brought up. Firstly, I think internal how you democratize data within the organization is extremely important, because I think before you venture out to have external collaboration, internally people need to be able to embrace that change, the evolution. And I'll share an example, right? It's extremely hard in the car industry. People that you deal with, usually they think that they know the best when it comes to this car, this price, because they've been in the industry for the longest. It's a very traditional market, right? And I think to change that perception using data is not easy, right? Because I think it tells the whole story of this data comes with better accuracy, but can you predict or can you give accuracy across the board with so many different variations of cars, right? So It took us a while. I think it took us a while before we can get everyone else to buy into this an extremely interesting solution. I think given the fact that most people that we recruit in has that the passion that thirst to solve really hard problems, and I think we always try to. I mean, the business is not shy with a lot of hard problems to solve within Carsome, so we always do that, and I think that now enables us to utilize this capability that we have from pricing to the other data parts that we see in the car assessment. And we are now collaborating with some of the partners within the industry, especially companies like doing financing, insurance, the dealerships that are dealing with cars, purchases, and so on. They utilize our platform to get assessment on many ways. Like, for example, dealerships that has trade-ins in I think 80% or 90% of the car dealerships that we have in Malaysia are working with us when it comes to assessing what is the trade-in price for their cars. And they utilize an app that we provide to them, just key in a few details and we instantly get an understanding of how much this car would be priced depending on the car condition it is. So, and I think that's the first step of trying to get that informations, those understanding and pass it on right to the external parties beyond Carsome that we work with. And we're trying to do a lot more with this. I think the bigger challenge that we always see is, exactly what Kaz is doing, right? Is trying to cultivate that environment that more and more people actually embrace data. More and more people actually want to, deep dive their head and trying to, do a lot of data work and trying to champion this aspect of the strength, right? The capability, which I think in every other businesses from now on would be very crucial, because without data, it's going to be very hard to even understand whether you're doing right or wrong things. And I think that's the most neutral way for you to find out. And I think we always try to practice that and try to see how we can navigate through, really extremely hard times, especially like right now with pandemics, right? And I'll give you another example of how we apply data in the business, right? Like in the first year of Carsome, we were not doing what we were doing. We were more on like a car information platform, just showing people like the specification of the cars, and was going deep into helping people to buy cars, but new cars. But I think through the request of people coming into the platform, we saw that like 70% of the people, they asked us a very simple question, right? Like, can you help me sell my cars? Right? That's the start of the whole point of how utilizing data. We pivoted the entire business to cater for car selling, because that's where people are facing problems. And once we went on to apply that, the business took off, and then we've grown really well over the last couple of years. And there's just one simple example of how data has played a huge role in the company's success.
Excellent. And interesting, Eric, because I know, having sold a few cars in my lifetime, it's a real pain line to do it, and you need to deal with this guy, then you need to transfer your insurance, you need to go in all sorts of things, transfer the ownership and whatever not. And with the fact that you guys found this niche, and I like the story about how you stumble upon the used car part because of the needs of the customers, right? In the sense that you reacted to the customer needs, which I think many people listening in, hopefully you realize that in this day and age, the customer persona and the customer thinking is something that many people in the past never really bothered about. They thought that my product, my Tealive, is something that everyone would like. But if Bryan doesn't change the product over every 6 weeks to suit the niche requirements of his customers, because some people may like more sugar, less sugar, more, all these things, right? And all that. And if he doesn't shift it, then people, will say that, it's the same thing, like the standard stuff. Whereas, and in the same way, Eric, if you don't pivot to what your customer wants, then we may not be able to continuously grow the market, right? And I quite like those sort of sharing. Now, a key topic that I know we talked about earlier when we were preparing is talent, right? Talking about all the great stuff we do with data, but we don't have the right people and the right mindset in your organizations. So maybe all three of you, the same question: how do you deal with talent, and how do you manage them? How do you keep them excited about, what you guys are doing, right? Maybe Sharala, you start first.
It's very key you brought that up. Other than the Data Literacy Week, the whole pandemic has created this, what they call it, the Great Resignation. people around the world, with what's happening around them, with life, people who have been thinking of changing of job, just quit without even getting a job. And this is real and it's happening. And more so with getting data literate talent is really hard. Everybody is fighting for it. So part of the culture that, I lived in Sweden for a long while. And one of the things that when I came back and we started CATS, part of, a culture that's trust, and that's how the Scandinavians live, is what we created in the company. So ownership. If you, it's the end of the day, we trust you, you do your job, you drive what is right, understand the purpose of the company. And we realized that in the beginning, it was almost a very strange culture to have in Malaysia and in ASEAN. And my HR head at that time went crazy because we have unlimited leave, because we believe that if you want to go on leave, if it's Deepawali or Raya, you take the responsibility. You don't apply for leave and expect me to manage who else is going to take care of your job. So I think it works both ways, right? If you want people to have responsibility, then you give them the freedom, but freedom comes with a huge sense of, responsibility. We always take that. So it took a while, and while we're implementing that, it was hard. People who come in who cannot understand what freedom means find it very hard to stay on. And it's something that we have to work on. How do you build the culture? How do you keep them engaged? And we talked about Zoom fatigue. And I remember one of my colleagues, when it started off, addressed that with me. And I remember very naively telling, oh, but you're a full grown adult. Go figure out. You don't have to be in every meeting. If you're tired of Zoom meeting, then arrange a meeting accordingly. It's not something a company as a whole had to come in. And I realize it could be very wrong to talk about it for some other companies, but this is basically what we do internally to address that. And many times, and I do that, we get a lot of young people excited to join and run a leadership role. Sometimes it drives the older one crazy. Like, what does this young dude know? But I think it's important to drive that, have younger people to understand what responsibility means. You don't have to wait for someone senior of you to die in order to take over their position. You don't have to wait in line. Everything is done by merit and not by how old are you and how many years you've been with the company. Disrupting that constantly could be insane for a lot of us, but for us, it makes a lot of sense. So you hold them accountable, you call out both ways. If someone, you give a shout out, if it's not working, we don't have performance review, because I do believe that you don't wait for 3 months to give feedback to someone. When I was working for some people, I wish my boss would have just told me and not waited for the performance review to go like, oh, you could have done this better, you could have done this better. So we do real time. And I think one of the key part, like you say, how do we do talent? We work with young people, we nourish a lot of fresh grads. We take interns from A-levels, SPM, to get them excited. If they want to have this job role in the future, they could join us. But even with our digital, with the leadership, we need to work on them. Because a lot of people, resign not because of the companies, the bosses they work for. And how do we enable the thought process of, digital leaders, data literate leaders? How do they get their team excited? So the purpose is not just Shah alone talking about it as a founder, but as CATS, why do people join us? And what is the impact that we're trying to do? So I think in that sense, that is why I do my part, and I hope my team does it. And I think there's so many ways that people try to collaborate, but we try to build a culture of trust. And then hopefully from there, people will take it on. It's hard, but we keep trying.
Excellent. Can I apply to join you? You said no leave, no standard leave, right? So
unlimited leave.
I'll be sending in my application after this call.
Which probably will be ending up working 24/7. Yeah, Philip, think about it.
I know Bryan is already trying to send some people over to you already. So Bryan, people are bedrock of your business, right? How do you, number one, bring the right talent? How do you nurture them? And how do you get them to actually ride the same train as you, or ride the same bus, right? In terms of digitalization, in terms of new way of looking at customers. Has there been challenges, and how do you overcome them? And same question for Eric as well. Maybe Bryan first.
Yeah, I think that's two part of question. One is about talent acquisition, right? Then
Yeah.
second one is about how do we empower them to really embrace data. So I think talent acquisition has been a big topic, and it can be as simple as sometimes I ask myself, right, what kind of company I want to join. So if the founder or CEO can begin with the mindset about what sort of company, if I'm an employee, I would looking forward to join, right? So I think there are a couple of it that is really flow on my head all the time. Number one is, I always wanted to join a progressive company, a company that progress all the time. And I always wanted to join a company who can exhibit and demonstrate all the small win very consistently throughout the brand journey. So that sort of company, I would very much looking forward to join them. And I definitely wanted to join a company with vision and mission that is very clear. They wanted to be, they are a company that came with a purpose. They know what they were striving for. They will rally the people around them to all moving towards the same directions to build a mission and achieving the vision. And then thirdly, if I'm an employee, right, I will always want to be with a leader that is inspiring, that I can learn a lot from him, and someone that could have nurtured me one day to become entrepreneur as well. So I think that's always the three things that came to all the way back to talent acquisitions. So are we stepping up our game with a clear vision and missions? That's number one question for us. And are we continue being a very progressive company and continue using our platform to showcase all the small wins so that people understood that, we celebrate wins. It doesn't matter how big and how small the wins is. So I think that's where we over the last 1 decade of journey, we realized that, we came from very difficult to recruit talent today to become a very organically able to attract a lot of talents. It's not because we are a sophisticated company. It's because we are always constantly demonstrate the wins in a very clear manner that everyone will very allow the wins. So I think that's, if you can recall, in 2017, we've been through our hardest time in life. There's our biggest turnaround time where we turn around from previous brand to new brand, creating a new brand. That is the true testament on how do we able to rally our people around for such a big transition altogether, to do a transition between 35 days. So I think from there, we built the bond. We built the trust, like what Sharala say. We built the trust, we built the bond with our people. Moving forward from 2017 today, right, everyone was working like a family. Everyone was working like a family. Everyone will strive for the success of the company without reminding them. So I think from there, they become the walking representative of company to attract more and more talent because of their own passion as well. So I think from there, we from starting from 2017, we can see that, we get into better positions where we can draw a lot more talents because our guys are now stepping up the game to become the brand by itself. So I think from there, we able to attract more talents. And by able to attract more talents, we now able to hire a talent that could maybe came from a very breakthrough mindset or breakthrough background that has got something related to data. So I think over the years, we started to develop a talent pool that are far more smarter than what we used to be 7 years back, right? In 2017, we are not data-driven. We are just guts-driven. We are just feeling-driven. But after 2017, we know this is what we're lacking of. But with the capability to able to attract a lot of talent, we start to attract a lot of talent that are far more greater than what we used to be. And from the last 4 years of journey, I think we are in a very good positions. There are more and more data-driven candidates that are joining us. Basically transform our organizations to a lot more data-driven than what we used to be. Yeah, Phillips.
Wow, excellent, Bryan. I really like the comment you made because, I mean, even in EY, we believe in purpose-driven leadership, purpose-driven and inspiring leadership, right? And, people talk about challenges and pandemic and so on. I think you had your pandemic in 2017.
Yeah.
And force you to actually pivot differently, right? I know you told me the story, and of course, we can't go into a lot of detail, but it's amazing, for those of you on the call, I think Bryan faced the toughest time of his life, right, in that period, and was able to come out of it within a month or so. And I think the learning and the drive and the purpose that they have set up helps them for future success. So great story, Bryan. Eric, how about you?
Yeah.
Oh, talent.
Talent, right? Yes. Completely agree with Bryan, right? I think it doesn't just apply to data per se, to be honest. Like within the company, I always make it a very mission-driven organization. What it means is you have a purpose, right? You come in because there is a joint vision that everyone is trying to pursue, and everything that matters that you do on a daily basis is contributing to that greater goal. That's something that I realized somewhere in like year 2 and year 3 building the business, when the team grew to a size of close to 1,000 people. I started to realize that a lot of people within the company don't feel related to that company vision. Like they're doing very minor petty stuff, but it just doesn't have that sense of achievement, right? That I'm in a company that is trying to disrupt the industry. And then that's where we started, trying to link up everything else that we are doing, right? Like we have a very simple framework that we call OKR, Objective and Key Results. We map like everything that we do down to the lowest level, but also high up all the way to the company's growth. Like this year, the achievement that represent is like, it's not even by metrics. Like the first objective is becoming the largest within Southeast Asia. Then what are the key results that's driving towards that objective, right? Then you have like the number of cars that you sell, you have the technologies you're trying to build, and to like internal controls that you're trying to uphold, like down to customer experience and so on. So that customer experience was one of those really key objectives in our recent times. And I think what it means is, if you look at from a data perspective, it helps contribute to that in a two tracks, where one, setting up the whole measurement to like from the first point of people coming to the website, how do they browse, do they like the entire online experience, do the offline experience, down to the delivery or the selling experience. And you sum it up with like an NPS score, which we have one of the highest. If you look at the US market, like CarMax, the largest car dealership for a used car, their NPS score is at 10, right? And that's considered good for the used car industry. Our NPS score is 86, which is easily even higher than a lot of other companies out there, right? So and then it's just a score, but ultimately what contributes to that is there's a lot of measurements that we put in place to try to optimize the way we do things, from conversion to delivering that pleasure experience to our customers. And we make it that it comes with a purpose, right? That we want to make sure that people who join the company, they are trying to work towards that goal. We're using data to try to understand it. And I think the data team within Carsome, they would know that very well. In the context of how do they help our internal people to deliver that kind of experience, and then gaining that kind of insights for us to further go into the next level, because I don't think 86 is the end of it, right? It can go even up to triple digit. So it's kind of down to us to see how we can continue being very consistent while we sell more and more cars. We still uphold that level of quality, and then the ripple effect of that, the network effect, is people would come back to use us. People would talk about it. They would like the brand a lot. And I think that's truly what represents when it comes to like when you're hiring, like acquiring talent from data to any other aspect. You want to deliver that message. You want people to know that this is the company you're joining. If you're up for it, then of course let's do it together.
Well, very interesting. I see very interesting insights, because talk about the NPS score, and congratulate you for it. And also the fact that I think this day and age, we used to have this thing called word of mouth, right? And the word of mouth about, my experience with Carsome is great, but now your word of mouth can probably be multiples of 100 times. One guy puts it on Facebook, 1 million people see it and they say, oh, Carsome is great, type of thing, right? And so we cannot, we've talked a lot about data and digital, and we cannot downside the whole thing. But I think as you all were sharing, I hear that it's not just about the front side of the house, meaning making sure that you use data and you're dealing with your customers. You also talk about internally, how your internal plumbing is, right? In terms of how you manage the culture, the people, the motivation of your team, internal processes and governance, and probably even, aspects, I would imagine that you look at things like cybersecurity and whatever not, to make sure that, all this information is probably protected and so on. Probably given and something that, people on the call should think about. It's not just about the great stuff about, my brand looks like this and I want to sell my product like that to my customer, but internally, things need to gel, right? Everything needs to come together. And so it's not just about technology, it's also about the people and the processes, right? So keep that in mind. Actually, one interesting question I have for all three of you, right? Because the common thing that you have, obviously, if I look at is entrepreneurship and the drive to see things that many people cannot see. And question is, how do you think it would be different if you had professional managers running your business? Meaning, you guys step back, say today, Bryan, you say I want to take 6 months off. I don't want to know anything. You just tell me how much money I'm making. I take 6 months off, go to an island and relax. Would you be able to do that? Would professional managers be able to step up? Maybe Sharala, same thing, and Eric. How do you think professional CEOs in an entrepreneur-driven organization can function? Because I've seen both sides of the coin. So, your view? Maybe Sharala first. Can you let go?
If you asked me this, I was going to tell you, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, no way I was going to let go. But the years have taught me that CATS has to be beyond me, and grooming people to understand the purpose. And I think that's when I started looking at business differently. The vision, the purpose, it's what I remember that, because I'm a quasi startup a few years ago, we had to set up the vision and mission, and everybody came together and everybody, said all the nice words that we need to use the vision and mission. And I realized that I worked for companies that I could not and cannot, remember what was the vision and the mission of the company. And I've decided I was going to do the veto, and I'm going to say, I'm going to have the founder's vision. And that's going to be clear why we started CATS, why we wanted to make the change, right? And then once I got that in my head, that's how the succession plan is going to be. I don't care who is going to be, as long they understand it's the vision and the purpose of the company, then the succession would come easily. So now I'm ready to let go and building an internal team to look at that. But I think that the founder CEOs will always have the drive. You ask Bryan, will he be able to go away for 6 months? And for those who don't know, I'm in Sweden taking this call at 2:00 in the morning. Okay, and a lot of my colleagues did not know I've left the country, because that's how it should be, right? And I used to wonder, would founder CEOs do that? Would a paid CEO go like, it's 2 a.m., I'm not going to take this call? But leadership is by example, and people need to know that it has to be seamless. So people thought Apple would not succeed after, Steve Jobs went, but, Tim did a great job, but that's because it's driven by the purpose. So eventually we have to do that. Eventually you need to know the succession. People join the company also for the founder's vision. What happens when the founder steps down, right? And I'm very, very conscious about that. And I think selecting a CEO is going to be something that we all have to be very mindful to drive the purpose. So yeah, that's my thought. But yeah, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, no, it's my cake and I want to have it all. I've learned to let go over the years.
Yeah, I think generally, thanks. Generally, the Asian culture is about, you can see from the surroundings, right? The environment that they're in, you never let go until you really have no choice type of thing, right? So maybe Bryan, how is your vision for, would professional leadership be something that you look for as you grow?
So I think
doing it already?
Okay, maybe I can share it this way, right? I think there's no right answer to either one.
Yep.
And what I truly believe is in the business evolution. Like what Sharala said, 5 years ago, if you ask me, I obviously think that, we will be the best in the world, right, in running our own business. But being a founder CEO, we also, I think the number one breakthrough is be aware about our own limitation and when do we actually go plateau with our own capability. So I think for the last 1 decade in the business, I realized that, I've came to a point where I find myself to be, a lot more weaker than what I used to be. And when it comes to knowledges. So I think that's where you start to realize that, it could be a time that you want to trigger to have a better CEO that can run a better jobs than compared to us. But it also will come to a point whereby you feel that, the company in need of you and you wanted to come back again. So look at what Starbucks, Howard Schultz did, right? In the 20s, when Starbucks went into crisis, he actually came back for the company. So he came back and saved the company, run it for 5 to 6 years later, and then he handed back to the professional CEO again. So I think there's no one fixed answer towards either of the choice, but it's always depending on the business evolution. But at this juncture in our business, I believe that, we need a succession planning. We need a succession planning with the thought of having a great leaders it may not be a replacement. It could be a synergy that could work together with the founders to build something into bigger and then slowly hand it over to someone that's far more capable than us. So I think that's what I believe in. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Very good sharing. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, again, right, there's no right or wrong answers. I think it's really depending on the time that you chose to think about, whether this is the decision you need to make based on where the company is, right? So if you look at it like Carsome in the early years, it's very hard to imagine that a professional CEO can run it well because the organization haven't taken shape yet. So it's about trying to find product market fit, expanding. So a lot of hustling. Like I'm wearing multiple hats in the early days, and like you look at Carsome now, it's very different. Like I built around like a full C-suite team, and they excel in the areas that they're doing, and perhaps actually doing even better than doing more than what they're supposed to sign up for, right? So it has come to a point where when the organization now is already taking shape, you want to scale it even further. There are certain things that professional CEO could do a better job. I think what my role is doing in the company is trying to keep everyone engaged, making sure that the culture stay intact because we are still growing at a rapid pace. So people join the company because of the visions that we represent. And obviously being a founder running a company, it provides that kind of assurance that this vision would not change. And I think that's what happened with Apple. The vision didn't change as Tim Cook took over. It just amplified and go even further. But I think if you ask me, like this already within the organization, the leadership team, there are people who are able to take up that kind of responsibility. I think what we do notice is it's very important to make sure when you onboard these people, you know them well, they know the company better. That chemistry started to build. With that chemistry, then things would be a lot more predictable. So that you know that when a succession plan, that you activated, somebody took over and start leading the company to the next phase of growth. You see that it's on a positive side of growing, not on the negative side. And I think that's something. It really depends on where the company is and what kind of move is the right move for the company to make.
Excellent. So I think all of you have realized that there is a time where you need to be probably a symbiotic relationship, as Bryan put it, right? You need to work together, right? And I think there's a concept of long-termism versus short-termism right now. So many organizations, sometimes if you have a short-term view of things, it's actually challenging, and then entrepreneurs obviously look way further ahead, right? And just a last point that I want to highlight and ask your view is on ESG, right? Because long-termism assumes that you think about longer-term customer value, people value from your organization, societal value, whether it's environment, social impact, and so on, that supports the longer-term financial performance. So maybe on the ESG aspects, how do you all see your businesses pivoting? How are you doing things differently to address ESG expectations? Because the world is changing its mindset. A lot of people are talking about environment, social governance, and how important it is in the way you run the business. Maybe quick sound bites as to how you are doing that in your business. Sharala?
Be nice to have one of the guys take this question first for a change. Yeah.
Go ahead then. Okay, maybe on the environmental front, just to share a couple of key significant that we did over the years is very recent year, I think we are the first lifestyle tea brand to launch a very unique strawless reusable bubble tea cup in the large scale manner. So what does it mean by strawless cup, right? So in bubble tea world, you cannot drink without the straw because bubble tea is all about toppings, various of toppings, right?
Yeah.
So we worked with a Japanese manufacturer to invent our own proprietary topping tray that allow our customer to drink various type of toppings by just tweaking the cup cover. So today, I think we sold up to about close to 1.5 million reusable bubble tea cup, out there, and they continually came back and used the cup. I think that's something that we want to champion about, being the first bubble tea brand to champion strawless bubble tea cup. So I think that's where we're heading towards reducing a single-use plastic and straw. Going forward, we also one of the first beverages partner player to introduce the plant-based bubble tea range, working with the UK largest oat milk player called Minor Figure. So since then, I think we'll just launched the menu in the early COVID period. Today, it became our permanent menu, something that we really want to champion about, to cater for customer who is lactose intolerant, who is vegan drinker. So I think that is a big milestone for any bubble tea player in the world to introduce plant-based milk. So I think that's one of the area for environmental. Social front, I think we have this strong brand purpose about bringing joys to people life through tea. So this is always something that we champion about. And being the market leader, I think we show our leadership by supporting the local community through a lot of food bank program that we did in different community that we operating our store at. So every month we committed to distribute food and drinks, to support the frontliner in PPV center, and most recent we also sponsored things like ventilator to Taipan Hospital, charity home, orphanage center as well. So those are the things that we feel is all needed to build a strong corporate images. And during pre-COVID day, volunteerism is a big thing for us. We have been very actively work with the CSR partners to roll out a lot of different program, things like soup kitchen, pig stop program, and also free food distribution to all different charity home and center. And very most recent, we also constantly work with people from other soup kitchen, food bank to rescue and redistribute excess food to homeless people who are badly affected by COVID or probably some of the jobless people. So I think those are the things that we have been really active to do, because we feel that for us to continue to build on our brand equity, those are the things that is inevitable.
Excellent.
So on the governance front, we digitalize our system and processes to also strengthen our internal governance, because I think one of the key learning for us in the world of data is always we believe that access to data is as good as accessing to the secret of one company. So we believe that in order to keep the governance right, we only granted certain access by authority level. So by doing so, I think we're able to uphold the level of sensitivity of data that we have to our ops level and to our management level. And that helps us to protect certain sets of data that we feel is a winning formula for us. So we also reduce waste. Typically, we go on e-signing document, implementing of e-document. So I think those are the typical by default thing as a company that we do. And above and beyond, I believe that if we could continue to build a people positive, community positive, or environmental positive company, we will be here to weather all kinds of uncertainty, all kinds of market situations, and continue to do well in our business.
Okay. Excellent. I think Bryan has answered all of you. I don't know, Eric, anything more to add?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things, right? Like probably you wouldn't see ESG as obvious when it comes to the used car platform, right? But actually we do quite a number of things over here. I think firstly on the environment, one of the key things that we do is if you look at used cars, they are typically not repaired in a proper way when it goes back onto the road. So that basically or it indirectly increase the carbon footprint, right? That you see within the country or within the region. So which in many ways, if we look at our latest reconditioning facility that we set up, so now we are able to recondition our own cars up to 6,000 capacity per year, and we are upping that to 18,000 early next year, and then 40,000 by end of the year. So all you would see is better quality cars on the road, and then that helps also in our mission to reduce the carbon footprint. And we are starting to have a lot of more EVs on our platform as well. And I think by next week we'll be selling Tesla too, both new and used car. So something very exciting for the team, but at the same time something that we felt is necessary, right, for us to contribute to a carbon zero environment in the end. Which is not so distant future. And if you look at the industry of automotive, this is something that is very interesting, right? It has always been a very male-driven industry, right? So, and I think in the way we build the company is we try to make it a lot more inclusive as a workplace. And you look at the team in the Carsome respectively. I think Malaysia we have about 30% of the people are female, and then about 15% in Indonesia. For female, and then 51% in Thailand are female within the company. So I think that environment is also trying to cultivate in that aspect, right, where we want to make this a lot more inclusive workplace for everyone. And it doesn't have to be a male to thrive in a automotive industry. And then lastly is we have set up last year a Carsome Academy. And this was born out internally where we want to cultivate learnings for our own employees in the beginning, especially in a time of lockdowns and so on. We want to upskill our people, but eventually we find that this is something very interesting for us to bring it externally. So we started to acquire the license from the Ministry of Manpower. And from there on, we set up our own technical institution. And we are now having 2 batches of intakes where technicians are coming on board. We are training them to eventually go back to, find a job in the automotive, place a job in industry as well. And I think this effort is also helping to professionalize the entire industry. Because when was the last time a technician has some career path to go with? Yeah. And I think we can provide something like that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Great stuff you guys are doing. Sharala, I won't ask you to answer because I need to go to the Q&A and I'm really behind time. Your team is giving me a lot, scolding me on the side because I didn't take questions. So I think interestingly, a few questions, I'm going to sort of merge a few of them. And then one of the first questions that we got is, and I just want you all to think about this, right? As the demand of data literate talent is increasing, what advice would you give for university students? I think a university student has asked a question, what do I need to do as a university student? Maybe, Sharala, what do you think?
So I'm going to quickly tell, if you're a student or if any individual that wants to get on it, go to cats.ai and you will have a learning pathway that's simply done for you that you can self-learn yourself. In the next 6 months, it will be free for them to do that. Regardless, you're a law student, a finance student, a social economy student, all of you should have data literacy background. That increases your chance of getting a job in any company. So good question, get on that, it's free. It will give you, if you don't know where to begin, it will automatically give you a path that you can actually do self-learning. So do that.
Yeah. In fact, I would say that every industry that they're in, whether it's engineering or medicine or F&B and all, everything has got data. Everything has got technology to associate with. So even in the future, I would imagine you don't need to go to hospital because someone can actually treat you from home because they can watch all your vital statistics online and deliver the right medication to you and so on and so forth. So there's so many possibilities, right? It's already there, yeah. So I think that's interesting. Next question. How do you reduce or prevent bias in your data so that you can get unbiased data to build your business? Maybe Eric, how do you look at biases in your data? Do you?
So I think the data is in a way neutral, right? Insights maybe as that after effect might be a little bit more biased, but it's something that you always discuss with the respective team that's involved, business team, tech team, product team. So then you have a collective answer, right, towards a conclusion rather. What is the right move and so on. So we encourage a lot of discussion. So that helps in trying to define whether this eventually would be the right move or not. I think more importantly is no one knows the right answer, even with data. So you kind of in the end need to test it out and get the result. If it doesn't gel or doesn't sync up with your earlier assumption, it's time to improvise or change it, right? So I think that's just how we think about it.
Excellent. So I think it would be probably very much similar to what Bryan would have. I just want to ask Bryan this question. And maybe the rest can chime in if you have comments. These days, young entrepreneurs have issues, and the biggest problem is funds. May I know how do you find funds, and what kind of tips and tricks will you give this young entrepreneur? I'm sure all of you started with challenges with funding. So, can you tell us, Bryan?
I think Eric can do a better job in answering this question. So I just want to say that there was a great case study come from Carsome, right? Before that, everyone was just struggling to get the right funding, because I think that the answer is not about getting the funding, is whether is the business model legit or not. So I think a lot of people was very concerned about how do they get funding, all this, and many of them does not actually worried about whether is the business model what the customer needs, right? Are they solving a community problem, or are they solving something that is big enough that people want to put the money onto your pocket? So I think that's just as simple as that. And I think Eric from Carsome did a fantastic job, and to tell us otherwise.
Okay, Sharala, any comments on funding?
I think it's not only for young, and I'll be honest, right? It's not only for young entrepreneurs. It is. I mean, EY has done quite a bit for female entrepreneurs to raise fund. It's hard, and I realized it's a different business model by itself, raising fund and running a business. And I've got to, I've got to learn that. And, and it's not easy. We are still bootstrapped. We are only now learning to raise money. And it's I have to relearn the whole process and understand that. I guess if you're, sometimes I wish I did that when we were still small and I'm willing to give away more. and now we're bigger and it's harder. So we all could write a book on this. I think it's never an easy answer.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, I did just a bit of promotion on Entrepreneur of the Year program that we run, and it's in our 20th year. And I get so many accolades from the entrepreneurs that come in among all of you, and talking about sometimes we need to be examples for the market and entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs in the market. I know Bryan, Eric, and Sharala have been great ambassadors of entrepreneurship, and I get stories told to me by nominees coming to our program to say that when they put themselves out as a top nominee even or a winner, those doors open much easier. And it's not so much about EY as a whole; it's about the standing and the manner in which our program is run. That the selection process and the decision process gives you the right brand ambassadors of entrepreneurship in Malaysia. Right? So there's one more question that's been asked. What are the key attributes and qualities to become a successful entrepreneur? Maybe one or two attributes from your side, Eric.
I think the first thing is being really persistent, because oftentimes if you're an entrepreneur, you don't find a success immediately, right? So it will go through a few variations, and then to that end, it's usually a lot of struggle, a lot of headaches, a lot of things to hold responsible with everything that's happening. So it could be quite a grueling journey. So it's something that you have to be able to commit into that journey that you want to embark on, right? And that means that if you are trying to start something, you have to have like really strong commitments. You really have to believe into the things that you're doing, and then you just try away or different ways to try to get it done. So typically, I think persistence is something that quality you must have. And I think the second one that I must preach is the learning attitude, right? So I think I managed to come to where I am right now is a lot of learning, a lot of looking at how people, sharing their experience and trying to adopt to my own experience or my own practice. That's very helpful, and that helps you to become a better person, and better in running the company as well.
Sharala, entrepreneurship in your view?
I think Eric said it well, right? Persistent, and I go like it's given. You have to, I think, and if you don't have it, probably you're not cut out. But that's the whole point about it, that people will tell you what you're doing is not right, it's not scalable, it's not. So believing in what you do, persistence, followed by exactly what Eric said, you have to believe, but you can't have blind faith. You can't try to sell something that's no demand out there and you keep believing in that, which brings to be able to have the growth mindset to pivot your business. The moment that you know that this is the limit you're going to reach and it's not going to go beyond that, to be agile enough to learn to let go, right? There's a thing that I always tell my team, that we love to hug and cuddle what we have built and never learn to let go. But I think with you've seen all these entrepreneurs who have reinvented their business over and over again. That is the ability to be able to let go and pivot. As we grow, let others grow along with us. And I think that's something people need to understand. We are stubborn in many ways, but people don't understand that we also have learned to let go a lot of things.
Yeah. So, Bryan, yourself, any pearls of wisdom, entrepreneurship?
I think just maybe looking at my own context of how everything get to build to where it is because we always have this mindset about cultural building, right? Because a lot of people, we are in a highly competitive industry whereby there's constantly a lot of startups, a lot of businesses around, bubble tea player and all this. So the only thing that differentiate us against all our competitors is always about this cultural building mindset. So the first day when we put up the first outlet, our vision is always about the culture of how do we modernize or nurture these modern tea drinking cultures anywhere we planted our stores, one community, one neighborhood, or even one country at a time. So I think that cultural mindset leads us to a place whereby any of our peers in the industry are not seeing a vision that we see. They just basically think that, bubble tea was a trend. Everyone was just jumping on the bandwagon and want to be part of the cake. But the only thing that we never look at it, right, is always trend chasing, because we feel that there's no way you can upkeep a trend forever. The only way for things to stay, you got to build into a culture. You got to build into something that people wanted to look for it on the daily basis. So I think for the last 1 decade, right, of the journey, is all about building the culture of these modern tea drinking cultures anywhere we planted our stores. So I think that's where it gets us to where we are, and able to maybe differentiate ourselves constantly with our competitor out there. And I think from that note is also going back to what Axryd and Sharala say, right? In a good word, it's persistent. In a bad way, it's stubborn, right? Stubborn with our vision. So I think we are very stubborn with our vision. This is what we want to do, and we always grind hard just to make sure that, we want to build the culture and force it out, right? We want to build so much store that anywhere they go, they cannot miss us, right? When they drive, they can see us at the petrol station. We are in the mall. We are outside the mall. We are in drive-through. We are in all kind of manual. They see us. So we are very stubborn about our vision and get very aggressive because we're so stubborn about it, right? So I think that's the second value. I think lastly is being very, very humble. I think being very humble is where it gets us to where we are, starting from a first startup where we are a pathetic 150 square feet store, one store at a time. Because being humble, it opened up a lot of door of opportunity for us. So I think today, a lot of people say that, it's not necessary that people successful cannot be humble. And I always believe that, humble is a true quality to attract a lot of opportunity. So in our cases, I think we were built upon humble, and there was so much opportunity being given to us out of the blue, and all because of the value of being humble. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Actually, I have had first, grandstand view of all these entrepreneurs, right? Whether it's Tony Fernandez or Francis Yo or A.K. Nathan over the years, and so on. And these guys have all, and the ladies that I've worked with have all common thing, right? They never settle. As you say, they never want to settle for mediocre performance. They always want to do the best. And sometimes when you have, that's why I asked the question about professional leadership versus entrepreneurship, right? Sometimes the professional, with no disrespect, right? The entrepreneurs will push them beyond, the boundaries of reasonableness sometimes, to settle and do something different. And that's why you see great things happening, right? With you guys in your businesses. Someone actually asked, Sharala, how can micro enterprises become more data literate? And these are the guys who may not have all the funds and the technologies. And how do you think you can help them?
I think this goes back to what Bryan was saying, that when he started off, there was a lot of gut feel about a lot of what I think is the right for the business, and a lot of SMEs are doing that. And I always say that if you are driving a business with gut feel, you're going to run out of luck soon, right? That's what is going to happen. So micro enterprises, and we work with a lot of them too. SMEs can become a data-driven organization by knowing exactly where they need to invest. Usually it will be their HR, their finance, and their marketing. You don't have to have, the whole organization to become data-driven. The key part, the 6 pillars that we have. But, again, if you can go to CATS AI, that's a free DDO assessment that SMEs can take, and that will give them exactly where you are today, a pulse check, and where you need to be next year, the following year, and where you need to invest. So during this pandemic, we realized not even, forget about SMEs, right? Even big companies struggle. They know they do need to get into this, but every penny counts. And your CFO is not going to be easy in doing that. So CFOs will go why do we need to spend this? How? And what's the ROI? And with a lot of digital and data transformation, there's a lot of failures in that. So we, over the years, have collected data, and people can actually go in and get a free assessment on how they can actually get into that. SMEs should not be sidelined for this.
Yeah, I think a very good point, Sharala, because SMEs, there are 900,000 SMEs in Malaysia.
Yeah,
something like that. And it's amazing how I talked a lot about collaboration earlier, right? And I personally feel there's a lot of ways that SMEs can collaborate. It doesn't mean that by collaborating you're giving away your business competitiveness. There could be collaboration in the way you help fund certain platforms with secure data that you can use. You don't have to spend.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have to produce a platform. Maybe Eric's platform is something that can work for another organization, but with certain security protocols and so on and so forth. So maybe a challenge to all three of you is to think through and do a co-creation session among all of you as to how Cats, Tealive, and Carsome can actually collaborate to produce something amazing, right? In my view, Cats can be the data-driven guide and development organization. Tealive, can be a very large brand to actually bring customers to Carsome, and Carsome can collaborate with Tealive, to expand the brand, maybe and things like that. So there's so many things we can do as a joint organization, right? So in the same way, micro enterprises need to think that way. Now, I recognize that we're already above time, and I know that you guys have given us a lot of your time and so on. Any last words from your side? Anything that you think that you want to share about your journey as entrepreneurs and as leaders, as CEOs, that you want to leave final words behind? Maybe Bryan?
No, I just want to confess, right, the last part of it. Thank you, Eric from Carsome, for giving an opportunity to collaborate. So actually, in the next 1 month, right, you'll be seeing that we allow car inspection across all our inline stores nationwide, working with Carsome. So people would never know that how would a car company actually collaborate with bubble tea company, right? But we actually make it happen, and then I really grateful for the openness from Eric and the team, and I'm looking forward to roll out the model and really build something very different and out of the box.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Likewise.
Eric, your side?
Oh yeah, I think that was a really great idea. I think get your car checked or buy a car or you have a Tealive, right? I think that's everyone would enjoy, to be honest. I think Malaysians has always been great. Like I'm a firm believer of Malaysian talent can do great things. And to be honest, I've seen many overseas, not in Malaysia, but within Malaysia, there's a lot of great talents. And I hope with everything that we are doing here, could help inspire more people to take up this journey. That's what we lack of. We just need more companies that can do great things like what we're doing here in the core. And I think that's one last message I'd like to just put up there.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Eric.
So
Sharala,
my ask is going to be, I'm going to hold all the three of you to pledge into this data literacy, to work to get your people to get more data literate talent into your company. So I'm going to call upon the pledge. Eric, you said you had academy, Carsome Academy, it'll be fantastic. Not only technicians to become data literate. Bryan, I know we worked with you in the past. I'll call upon you. And then EY. And I think it's fantastic to put these brands out. The young people will be excited to take. They know that this kind of, doesn't matter what, all of you come from 3 different industries, right? It'll be fantastic to be able to take on this pledge.
Definitely.
Excellent. Thanks, Sharala. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Bryan. On the last note about EY, I think a bit of sharing on my part. Many people think that we are accountants and tax agents only, but actually I can tell you we have a huge data analytics business. And I think we act as a connector because we help companies like yourselves or SMEs or companies which are trying to move into digital and data transformation to actually start, pulling things together, and we have those skills. And so hopefully, by collaborating, there's great things that we can do. And I echo what Eric said, Malaysian entrepreneurs are amazing. I've done this entrepreneur of the year, 20 years, how many people are amazed that a country like ours with 30 million population can run an entrepreneur program for 20 years. And we are going strong. We've launched and we are closing the 20th year this year. And so if any of you are on the call, if you think that you are up to it, go onto our website. You could be able to submit your nomination or talk to my team. We'd be happy to listen to your story. I know Bryan and Eric and Sharala all came in through the same way, and they shared their stories and amazed the judges.
Bryan nominated me for the 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So this is how we work.
And
Yes,
I tell you, these 3
No problem.
entrepreneurs on the screen here today or on your panel today are amazing guys. Right? There's so many entrepreneurs out there, and I can tell you Malaysians are amazing in their entrepreneurial ability. I think we are masters at finding some way out of problems. We are masters at finding ways out of even the conditions we are facing. And as I told the panelists, everyone talks about the sad part about COVID, and I really must recognize that the frontliners and the people have have had so many challenges economically, and medically, health wise, in terms of this pandemic. But let's pray for that to get away. But we need to look at the positives out of what has happened. More digital appreciation. More people are actually using technology to actually influence the way they do things. My 91-year-old dad is using WhatsApp today because of pandemic, right? Because he couldn't connect with us physically, right? So he sends me messages or he calls me on WhatsApp or whatever not. Can you imagine 91-year-old using WhatsApp? Sending pictures and so on and so forth. So I think it's been a difficult time for us, but let's try and look at the positives. And hopefully, all of us can grow. Lastly, I'd like to thank Sharala for giving me this opportunity. As I told the panel, I don't have structured questions. I just ask as I go along. Hopefully, the panel, the audience has enjoyed the sharing. Sharala, thanks so much. Eric and Bryan, I'm amazed, continue to be amazed with what you guys do. Please continue on. Entrepreneurs are the way forward for our country. And hopefully we all learn from this. So thank you very much, and all the best, everyone. Stay safe and be happy.
Thank you, Philip.
Over to you, Hassan.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you so very much to everyone. Bryan, Eric, Sharala, and of course, Philip, our moderator. It has truly been an inspirational and insightful session. I think time just flew by so quickly when the discussion is really this good. I wish we could have more time to discuss more. Again, big, massive thank you to our panelists. Thank you so very much. And to our audience, thank you very much for staying on. And as mentioned earlier, I will take the next 5 minutes to give you a quick walkthrough of the platform that we use to upskill and future-proof individuals and organizations. Just a quick recap. The purpose of this campaign is to help organizations accelerate their data-driven priorities and culture. And even more importantly, is to help individuals like yourself to become data literate. Our aim is to go beyond Malaysia and Singapore, but to the whole of ASEAN, where the talent pool is abundant, agile, and full of promises. What we will do now is to play a short video that articulates the steps that one needs to take in order to become data literate. Please.
All companies, no matter big or small, are transforming their business digitally. They're looking for talents with digital skills to drive digital transformation. Now everyone is expected to work with emerging technologies, where data is the key ingredient. No matter what background you're from, no matter which position you're in, you will be expected to work with data. The truth is, you don't need to be a data professional to work with data. What you need is the ability to analyze, communicate, and work with data. This is data literacy. But how do you become data literate? Step 1, identify your digital skills. Step 2, get clarity on what skills to learn based on industry demands. Step 3, get a personalized learning path unique to you. Step 4, get matched with jobs and projects relevant to you. Step 5, connect with peers, mentors, industry experts, and employers. Step 6, participate in competitions to build reputation. Join thousands of others in a growing community. Future-proof your skills. Become data literate with Rubik. Sign up to get started.
So as you just witnessed, becoming data literate is simple, and we have been helping thousands of individuals to reach that goal in a way that is methodical and personalized. Our platform will measure your skill strengths and recommend appropriate learning programs unique to you. You will be able to get certified and share your recognition with your peers. What about organization? For organizations, getting clarity on your workforce is essentially the first step to ensure your learning and development roadmap is spot on. You will have clear visibility of the growth of your company's skill inventory. Organizations can assign their workforce to take on new business challenges with the right skills. This is great in building employees' retention and loyalty. The right employee with the right skills for the right tasks. Do reach out to us if you'd like to find out more about our framework. Finally, Being data literate simply opens doors, more doors for you in your career and allows you to be more marketable and desirable. Here, you're looking at some of the alumni from our CAS program. After taking our programs, they've gone on to taking really significant roles in data engineering, data scientists in different organizations, from small, medium-sized to big corporations in the region. So what we ask you to do at this point is to join us in our mission to future-proof the economy and the workforce one nation at a time. Your success is also our success. If you would like to know more, please click on the screen and give us a pledge. We can't do this alone. This is a collective effort, and we want all of you to join our mission to future-proof the world. So give us a support, pledge now, and then we can grow on this together. Once again, thank you so very much for all of you for being with us today. I hope that I hope that you have learned as much as the panelists have shared with you. So thank you so much. Please take care and have a good day ahead.
All companies, no matter big or small, are transforming their business digitally. They're looking for talents with digital skills to drive digital transformation. Now everyone is expected to work with emerging technologies, where data is the key ingredient. No matter what background you're from, no matter which position you're in, you will be expected to work with data. The truth is, you don't need to be a data professional to work with data. What you need is the ability to analyze, communicate, and work with data. This is data literacy. But how do you become data literate? Step 1, identify your digital skills. Step 2, get clarity on what skills to learn based on industry demands. Step 3, get a personalized learning path unique to you. Step 4, get matched with jobs and projects relevant to you. Step 5, connect with peers, mentors, industry experts, and employers. Step 6, participate in competitions to build reputation. Join thousands of others in a growing community. Future-proof your skills. Become data literate with Rubik. Sign up to get started.